Okay, good morning. I'm going to ring our bell. Good morning and welcome to Ingathering for the First Unitarian Church of Alton. Due to the COVID pandemic and the rise of the Delta variant, we have returned to hybrid services at this time. While this is not the ingathering that we had planned, I'm grateful to be here leading this service, and I'm excited to have you all here, even if it's just virtually. And thank you also to Ken and Alex and Joy for being here with me today. I want to apologize. I'm wearing a mask because as I was coming in this morning, my throat felt a little sore, so I'm doing this for the safety of my friends here in the room. So thank you again for joining me today. I am Robin Berkeley, and I am president of this congregation, and I also serve as a worship associate. Ingathering marks the beginning of our church year. After the summer, UU churches traditionally come together to regroup and rebuild community and embark on a new year of worship, service, love, and community. Even though we are still separated, we are still one community, willing to work together to fulfill the mission and vision of our church. This year is an important one ahead of us. We have a lot of work to do, but a lot of fun before us as well. I'm excited you are here and can join us today virtually. For those of you new to our congregation, the First Unitarian Church is a small lay-led congregation located in Alton, Illinois, on the bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River. It is a beautiful view. We welcome everyone to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. We are Unitarian Universalists. We open the service with a prelude by our pianist, Joy Heft. Thank you, Joy. An important ritual in the Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. Unitarian Universalists have many different interpretations of the flaming chalice, including the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. Join me in celebrating all of these reasons and more as I light our chalice. Please recite the unison words for the chalice lighting. we hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. Our opening words were from the UUA. Guided by love, secured by hope, and made courageous by faith, we gather together at a moment of beginning, both learning and teaching, welcoming the injured and the healing, ever justice seeking. We bless this church with our love. With pilgrims and seekers, growing children and cherished seniors, guided by pillars and by leaders, we bless this church with our hope. Praying and resolving, trusting and involving, some settled, some evolving. We bless this church with our faith. Let us receive our ingathering as a gift. May it inspire renewed commitment to our great covenant of love, hope, and faith. May our eyes be opened to opportunities for broad ministry within, throughout, and beyond. May the blessings we come to know through that vision be a blessing to the world. Amen. Our first hymn is number 1059 in the blue hymnal, if you have it handy with you. May your life be as a song. Sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars. We work each week to share with you how our message and stories of the day correspond with our 7 UU principles. For those of you new to Unitarian Universalism, we are not a creedal faith with one shared set of beliefs, but are a covenantal faith with shared values in support of finding answers to the mysteries of the universe. These values have evolved over time into our 7 core principles for which we covenant together to follow and support. To kick off our year, I'm going to share those principles with a brief explanation for each. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I interpret this principle to mean we believe each person has inherent worth and dignity, even if we disagree with their beliefs and values. Disagreement is human and should be expected in a world where we have free will and freedom of conscience to pursue our own interests, values, and beliefs. Can I believe your point of view is not in alignment with my own and believe you still have worth and dignity? Absolutely. Every living human has worth and dignity, even if we don't share values. This point of view helps me personally to stand firm in my values when faced with adversity and pushes me to choose love and to stand on the side of love. Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. This principle is what guides many Unitarians towards the social justice work we find so dear. If we believe in and follow the first principle above, it naturally follows that we will ensure that all we do is just, fair, equitable, and compassionate as we work with others. Whether we are feeding the food insecure, helping Afghani refugees, providing personal care items to those less fortunate, or working hard for transgender rights, we continue to march towards doing what is just and compassionate for all. Number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. What I found most astounding when I first attended a Unitarian church was the ability for so many diverse points of view to sit in one church location. We have Buddhists, atheists, agnostics, Christians, humanists, and pagans, among many other belief systems in our midst. Our goal as UUs isn't to tell people what to believe, but empower them to take responsibility for their own spiritual growth and to share their knowledge and insight with others, so our congregation grows and evolves in a healthy way. I honor your path, and you honor mine. We accept that often our paths diverge, but we respect those diverging paths nonetheless. Number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Corollary to number 3, our willingness to accept others and our differences is followed by a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The pursuit of truth, whatever that might be for each of us, is essential in a liberal and free religion. We are not limited to the values and tenets of one point of view, but allow ourselves to continue to search and evolve and grow as individuals and as a congregation. Number 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. A democratic process means that we are looking for the greatest good for the greatest number of people. We want all voices to be heard. Democratic process is how we can ensure that the rights of all are being considered and that we have the right to pursue that which aligns with our conscience. Our congregation strives to maintain a democratic process. You have elected officials to be a part of our church leadership and have empowered us to do work on your behalf. There are times when we need to hear your voice, and there are times when we may have to move ahead with the decision, keeping the best interests of the congregation in mind, even if we don't all agree with the decision. Your voice matters, and we empower you to get involved and share your voice, no matter how hard it is, and even if your voice shakes in doing so. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. Number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. As Unitarian Universalists, we understand that issues are complex and are larger than we can possibly comprehend at times. But what continues to push us now is that now we can live, walk, and breathe our UU principles and values to build our community and the larger global community. We honor differences. We honor peace, liberty, and justice for all, even if we disagree with someone in a fundamental way. We work for peace, we work for freedom, we work for more openness, and we work for justice for ourselves and for everyone on this planet and, perhaps beyond. You just never know what's out there. Right now, I'm rewatching my favorite show, Babylon 5, and it truly aligns with the Principle 6 about world community and peace. I'll call it galactic community and galactic peace. Number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We believe that nature, the environment, the flora and fauna, and humans are interdependent. We ignore one part of this web at the peril of all the others. We recognize that justice also means clean water, breathable air, healthy food, and flourishing plant and animal life, that it only benefits our existence on this earth. We also know that when one among us does not feel safe, none of us are safe. When one among us is hurting, we all hurt. And when there is no justice for some, there is really no justice for all. We respect the need to care for each other because in doing so, we care for ourselves. Throughout this year, we will build worship experiences for you based on our UU principles. Keep these in mind as we move through the world today and into the future. Our joys and sorrows ritual, typically we would ask people to speak up. So I will invite anybody who's viewing this virtually, and Alex, if anybody has anything to comment, you'll let me know. But our goal here in the Joys and Sorrows rituals is to share the things that bring us joy, to share the things that bring us sorrow and where we need some support. So there's a few things that I would like to keep in mind. Number 1, for those suffering from this pandemic, whether it's financially or with their health, I want to keep them in my prayers and my thoughts always. Number 2, as we see people leaving Afghanistan and the pain and suffering that's occurring there as the Taliban continues to take control, I want to keep the prayers for all of the people who are impacted by that, including our servicemen and women who are there trying to get people out safely. A friend of mine's brother is a chaplain for the military, and he's in Germany trying very hard to get people out as safely as possible. So I know that there are people that I know and love who are touched by this very deeply. So please keep those people in mind. Take a moment to take a deep breath. And even if you can't share online, virtually, whatever is in your heart, know that we send you prayers of joy, love, support, and comfort as needed. All right, moving on to stewardship. We offer the gentle reminder that this community of faith is supported only by your giving. We need each other, and in times of trial, we need each other even more. We challenge you all to not only consider stewardship to be about financial donations, but to also ask people to donate time and talent to help our church. If you can't write a check, can you donate some time to serve the church community? Please donate as you can with your time, talent, and treasure. All are needed for our church to thrive. You can mail your financial gift to First Unitarian Church, P.O. Box 494, Alton, Illinois 62002, or you can give electronically by searching for First Unitarian Church of Alton on the Givelify app or via the link on our webpage as well. You can also give through PayPal if you prefer. If you are willing to donate your time and talent, please contact a board member and let us know what you can do to help. Give what you will and what you are able, for you are a generous people. Please join with me in the offertory prayer to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. We dedicate ourselves and these, our offerings. Okay. So we have two readings today. The first one is from Angela Herrera. It's called Doubting Thomas, and it is in a book called Reaching for the Sun, Meditations. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy." Jesus may be right, but the reverse is also true. To bring forth what is within you is to destroy the self that has brought forth nothing. Picture Jesus cutting wood, the subtle weight of nails in his pocket, his collection of tools. As a carpenter, he fashioned tables, ran his hands over them in the wilderness, the desert, for the uncertainty of transforming human hearts. History destroys and remakes him. And every spring, in ritual, he is killed and rises again. "Follow me," he says. "Say goodbye to what you know. Now is the time for transformation." It's a terrifying order, and so we avoid change, holding what is within us at bay, burying it for the comfort of our routines. This may save us, but only by aborting the person we could have become. If we could really live, we must be willing to die within the seasons of our lives. Even a path of sameness leads to death by stagnation. The question is, will you be reborn? Will you press through the darkness and the constraint, the danger of your remaking? And when you do, what will you bring forth? Our second reading is an excerpt from Paul Tillich's book called Systematic Theology, Volume 1, Being and the Question of God. The dynamic character of being implies the tendency of everything to transcend itself and to create new forms. At the same time, everything tends to conserve its own form as the basis of its self-transcendence. It tends to unite identity and difference rest and movement, conservation and change. Therefore, it is impossible to speak of being without also speaking of becoming. Becoming is just as genuine in the structure of being as is that which remains unchanged in the process of becoming, and vice versa. Becoming would be impossible if nothing were reserved in it as the measure of change. Our second hymn will be number 123, Spirit of Life. Wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Sorry for the technological issues there. Are we all good now, guys? Cool. All right. Sorry about that. Things happen. We go with the flow, right? So our story for all ages today is a caterpillar grows up, and I thought this was really profound and I didn't even think about it until I went out to the garden this morning and I was trying to look at things and harvest the remaining tomatoes on my vines and figure out what I need to do to get my basil down and all that sort of stuff. And I'm looking at my parsley and wondering why my parsley is just disintegrating in front of me. And it turns out that I have about a dozen parsley caterpillars on my little parsley plant, which at first I thought, oh my God, I got to get rid of them. And I thought, wait a minute, maybe it'll turn into a butterfly. And sure enough, I did some research and found out that the parsley caterpillar becomes the black swallowtail butterfly. So it is going to be a very beautiful butterfly in due time. So they can have my parsley. I love butterflies. That's why I put my garden in. So yay on that. All right. So the story, as I will now move forward to, is called The Caterpillar Grows Up. It's adapted from The Family Finds Out by Edith Hunter from the Tapestry of Faith Stories. If you need additional details, it's Beacon Press in 1966 this was written. Okay. Ellen was sitting up on a branch of the apple tree, swinging her legs. Her mother was looking over the vegetable garden. Want to see a nice fat green worm? Her mother called. Ellen jumped down from the tree and ran over. I guess that's a cabbage worm, said her mom. He's sitting on a cabbage leaf. See the big holes he's eaten in the leaf? He's just the same color as the leaf, said Ellen. He's hard to see. I suppose there are a lot more of those worms around, said her mother. They don't help us a bit because they eat the cabbages. Would that worm grow up to be a butterfly like the caterpillar does, said Ellen. I guess so, said her mother. I suppose that really is a cabbage caterpillar, not a worm, and there are cabbage butterflies. You know, those yellow ones with big black spots? Do you think we could keep him, Mommy, and watch him grow up? Asked Ellen. Maybe we could see him turn into a butterfly. We could try it, Ellen. Who knows what he eats? You could feed him cabbage leaves every day. Let's show him to Daddy, said Ellen. Maybe we can find something to keep him in. She ran off into the house, holding the green cabbage caterpillar close in her hand. Her father was working in the kitchen. See my caterpillar, Daddy, said Ellen. I'm going to watch him grow up into a butterfly. Would you help me find a house for him? Well, let's build him a house right now, he said. I have 4 small panes of window glass. We can use those for the sides of the house and a piece of screen for the top and some wood for the floor. In just a few minutes, they had made a fine glass house, and Ellen put the caterpillar right in and put the screen over the top. You can pull up one little cabbage plant each day to feed your caterpillar, said her father. There are more plants growing in the garden than he will ever be able to use. Perhaps if you wet the leaves before you put them in, he'll get enough water. We'll keep his glass house on the living room table so we can all see what happens to him. Ellen ran right out into the yard, and her mom helped her pull up one baby cabbage plant. Ellen brought it in and wet the leaves. Then she put it into the glass house. There you are, Mr. Caterpillar. I hope you will grow up to be a butterfly soon, said Ellen. For 3 days, the caterpillar crawled around inside his glass house. Ellen put in fresh cabbage leaves each day. He seemed to be fine. On the 3rd day, he crawled up the glass on one side of the house. About halfway up, he stopped. When her parents came home from work that night, Ellen said, My caterpillar is just sitting on the side of his house. He hasn't moved all day. Do you think he's dead? They looked at the caterpillar. He seemed rather dried up. He wasn't moving at all. But if he were dead, said her father, I should think he would fall down. We'll just have to wait and see. I never raised a butterfly before. You know, said her mother, when a caterpillar is nearly ready to become a butterfly, he stays very still for a while. Sometimes he spins a cocoon, or he buries himself in the ground, or he just sits quietly in his old skin. They call him a chrysalis when he's doing that. Then, when he's ready, he comes out as a butterfly. They decided that either their caterpillar was a chrysalis now, or he was dead. For about a week, he didn't seem to change much, except he got a little smaller looking. He didn't look like a caterpillar anymore, just a dried up little skin. A few days later, Ellen was standing in front of the glass house, wondering if anything was ever going to happen to the old caterpillar. Suddenly, she noticed something. Mom, Dad, she called. I think I can see yellow wings inside. I'm sure I can. Her parents came into the living room quickly. See, said Ellen, there are 2 tiny yellow wings all folded up in there. I see some black spots too. Do you think he's going to come out and be a butterfly now? I guess that is exactly what is going to happen, said her mother. Why, this is the most wonderful thing I have ever seen. Let's take the glass house out on the porch. We'll watch the butterfly come out. They put the caterpillar's house on the porch railing and sat down beside it. They waited and waited and waited, and nothing seemed to be happening. Maybe it will take a long time still, said her father. I guess we better not just sit here the rest of the day. Let's go weed the beets and then come back and take a look. After they had worked for a little while, Ellen said, I'm going to go see the chrysalis for a minute, and she ran up onto the porch. Oh, look, she called to her parents. He's a butterfly already. He's come out. He's beautiful. They came running. Instead of a dried up old worm, there was a beautiful creamy yellow butterfly. His wings looked soft as silk. They were much, much bigger than the little wings that Ellen had seen all folded up. Now the butterfly was flapping them back and forth, back and forth. Oh, I'm so sorry when we missed seeing him come out of the chrysalis, said her dad. I shouldn't have been in such a hurry. But isn't he a beauty? See his long tongue? He can reach way down in the flowers with that. The butterfly kept unrolling his tongue and then rolling it up again. I'm going to take off the roof of the house now, said Ellen, so he can fly away if he's ready. The butterfly did not fly right away. Then after a minute, her mother slipped her finger down next to him. Carefully, he put one of those long legs, his long new butterfly legs, and stepped onto her finger. Then Ellen put her finger next to her mother's. Once again, the butterfly reached out a long leg and stepped out onto Ellen's finger. Ellen lifted up her hand carefully. She held the butterfly out over the porch in the bright afternoon sun. For a moment, he clung to his finger, and then, opening out his silken wings, he flapped them gently and rose up in the air. Fly away, butterfly dear, Ellen and her parents sang as the lovely yellow butterfly flew off. They watched him fly across the street to the meadow. He's landing, said Ellen. He's landed on a meadow flower, and made them glad to see their very own brand new butterfly having its first drink of the sweetness of the flower. Love that story. I love butterflies, and I know Carol does too. Our meditation prayer for today is called Prayer for Living Intention in Voices on the Margins by Joseph Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. So the sermon I'm going to read today is from Faith Rocket, and it is called The Excitement of Change by the Reverend Douglas Taylor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the sermon as it was pre-prepared, but I have some of my own thoughts and comments at the end of that to talk. So before we conclude, I'll sort of end the sermon reading with some of my own thoughts on the topic. And I believe contextually, this was probably either late 2016 or early 2017. It seems to make reference to the 2016 election, so that's my thoughts on that. Okay. The excitement of change. Friends, there has been much in our common life subject to change lately. We began our church year with an intentional upending of a few key aspects of our congregation. We chose to explore changes to our facility, changes to how we structure our social action work, and changes to how we do faith development and our Sunday mornings. Yes, partly we undertook these changes in response to realities that were changing around us, but we still made a conscious decision to explore those changes. We picked them. We chose them. And then there was a presidential election in which the nation had a choice between, to oversimplify, continuing somewhat along the lines of the previous 8 years, or upending things in favor of something completely different. And friends, our nation chose to go the route of upending things. On top of all that, things happen in my life. Changes take place, changes I set in motion, and changes that send me reeling. Surely you have had your share of personal changes, large or small, over these last few months. Personal changes tend to take priority when they loom large in our lives. It sometimes amazes me that we each have time for sustained effort at building a better world, or responding to national and global situations. Our individual dramas take precedence, and yet we do have time and energy to bring to communal and societal concerns. So somehow it works. Change happens. Now, generally speaking, Unitarian Universalists are game for change. We have a proclivity for novelty. We like experiencing new things in terms of our theology and ritual. We are not a people who suffer rigid tradition or settle for centuries-old answers to life's deep questions. And don't get me started about societal change, about social change. We love social change. We are often at the forefront of progressive movements. This is our wheelhouse. Yes, Unitarian Universalism is a wide-eyed, this-world-focused, change the world and have fun doing it type of people. But friends, I must admit, sometimes I'm not so sure about it all. I lose some of the excitement and end up with just the anxiety. I get worn down with all the newness, the innovation exhaustion, perhaps, is what it is called. Occasionally, I lose sight of the vision we are aiming for and find myself feeling lost on the emerging edge, and all the change feels like mere chaos. Has anyone else felt that? Do you also slip sometimes? I know I do. The experiences of resistance, fatigue, fear, discomfort, and anxiety are all par for the course with change. There are ways to navigate change that ameliorate those negative experiences, ways to bring the excitement back, ways to stay grounded in the chaos of change. When I begin to feel off balance or anxious, worn out, or resistant, I have a handful of practices and perspectives that help me regain my center and stay open to what may come. In the reading we had this morning, Doubting Thomas, my colleague Angela Herrera offers a valuable insight. She begins with that delightful passage from the Gospel of Thomas. And please don't worry. If you don't recognize the passage, the Gospel of Thomas is not in the Bible. It is one of the books that didn't get included, which we have since discovered. And it states, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Herrera does not spend her time on the question of what is within you. Instead, she focuses on the question of what happens when you do or do not bring it forth, namely, as it relates to my topic, it will change you. And indeed, she suggests there is value in that process of honoring what you lose when you change, because we avoid change. So she writes, holding what is within us at bay, burying it for the comfort of our routines, this might save us, but only by aborting the person we could have become. If we would really live, we must be willing to die within the season of our lives. Question is, will you be reborn? Every new day is also the ending of an old day. Every new relationship is the ending of who you were before that relationship. We tend to be enamored with the new change, excited about a new job, a new idea, a new possibility opening. Unless, of course, the change is not something we want, then we are not the least enamored. Herrera suggests there is value in honoring what you lose when you change. That is easier when the change is not something we want. And so honoring what is no longer comes quickly. We honor loved ones who have died, we celebrate their life, but this is more than simply holding on to what is gone, refusing the reality of what has changed. It is about honoring it as you let it go. And that is easier to do when the change is indeed something you want. The wisdom is in doing it for good changes and for bad. And if you spend a few minutes pondering changes in your own life, you might be thinking right now that few changes are exclusively all good or all bad. In honoring what we let go, we can embrace today's changes as reality, and perhaps, without judging each change as good or bad, we can feel that excitement of change in letting go so we can see and even shape the positive side of moving forward. As we consider new ways of doing our Sunday morning experience, new configurations of our building, of our social action structures, take what time you need to honor what was and let it go. This practice can alleviate unnecessary anxiety or resistance and highlight and focus any necessary anxiety and resistance depending. My point being, what's past is past. Resistance against reality is useless. But resistance in the name of a vision for moving forward is another matter entirely. Learning to let go will help bring clarity. So this next paragraph, this is me talking here, this next paragraph I could totally relate to because I know that I've been in this pulpit myself on many a time saying this exact same thing. So the author goes on to say, as I am learned clergy, when I offer perspective on the one hand, you can be sure that as soon after I will add perspective on the other hand. It is said one can shorten any preacher's sermon by tying their hands behind their back. So on the one hand, letting go is of great value, and on the other hand, you would do well to learn to hold on. We are constantly changing. It is one of those universal truths. As faithful human beings, we grow and we change. These are the words I often use to begin a homily when a couple who has asked for one at their wedding. I'm not usually asked to do a homily, but from time to time, a couple will ask me to share some spiritual reflections on the topic of marriage. And my standard wedding homily has become ruminations on the dynamic aspect of change in a relationship when the couple decides to make a commitment till death do us part. So often our culture presents the ideal marriage relationship as something other than reality. In love forever, a constant and full feeling of love at all times, for all time. And as I say, the reality does not line up. We are constantly changing. Not only will each partner in the relationship grow and mature at their own rate and pace, the feelings of affection and attraction have more ebb and flow to them than constant current. So I give couples this warning. One time I got a little carried away and actually began my homily saying, as you stand here on the cusp of a new day, I must warn you, ... I may or may not have had a malicious grin when I said this, That couple took it in good humor, but I have since made all effort to stay on script during such homilies. The point I steer towards in these marriage reflections, the counterbalance to change, I say, is choice. We are not static. I remind them very clearly that we change and grow and mature. We adapt to the changes. We choose as well as those we do not choose. People do not choose to fall in love, but they do choose to marry. Falling in love is not enough to sustain you through the years because you do not stop being a dynamic, growing person when you marry. You make a choice to commit to this one person beside you through all the changes of your life together. And all this applies to situations other than marriage, particularly the point about choice serving as the counterbalance to change. There are changes we choose and changes we do not choose. But even for those we do not choose, we can still choose how we respond. Acknowledging my capacity, my agency in the face of change helps keep me stay centered. Instead of lamenting as things happen to me, I can bow to the whims of the circumstance and still act within my integrity. I can still let go of what was, and I can hold on to my capacity to choose my way forward. In many things, this is about finding what you still hold while all else changes. It is about discovering your guiding values, your integrity, the vision leading into the change in the first place. With the various changes and experimentations we've had here in the congregation, have you made choices about them? Have you responded? Have you changed? You have a choice of what you hold while all else changes. Knowing what you hold on to will help you weather the changes, help you stay grounded and headed in your chosen direction through the changes, even the changes you do not choose and cannot control. Let go that you may be open. Hold on that you may stay true. And as I am a learned clergy, I will now deliver point number 3. For every good ministry student doth learn that a good sermon shall have 3 points. 3 shall be the number of the points in thy sermon, and the number of the points shall be 3. 4 shalt thou not offer, neither shalt thou offer 2, excepting that thou then proceedeth to 3. 5 is right out. So we'll pay homage to the Monty Python and the Holy Grail from 1975. One of my favorite movies, of course. So point number 3, the rubber band theory of change. There are, I am sure, a multitude of versions of the rubber band theory, some of them probably copyright protected. But what I am offering is a simple analogy rather than a full-blown theory, and it is simply this. We can stretch ourselves to reach a goal. Like stretching a rubber band, we can stretch the systems and institutions, and that will create significant tension. When you stretch a rubber band, it goes from loose to tight. Similarly, we can stretch, it is possible, and it causes tension. The other part of this is that eventually the rubber band will snap back to its relaxed position. Christian theologian and ethicist Paul Tillich suggested something very similar in his systematic theology book. In his chapters on human nature, he spoke of growth this way. Imagine a dot on a piece of paper as the center point of yourself. When we stretch, when we receive some challenge, some new learning, some opportunity to become more fully actualized, imagine an arrow arcing in a semicircle away from the point to a new spot, and then continuing in circle back to the original point of yourself. Much like the rubber band theory of change, we stretch now, but we also return. Now, Tillich goes a step further, and so he should, for we all know that change does happen while the rubber band analogy suggests a fertility of change. No, Tillich says instead, using the image of a circle drawn from the starting point of self out to a new learning and back to the start again, he suggests that the circle now defines a new center and thus a new self. Tillich says we do stretch, but we also then integrate new learning into our current self, which then creates a new self. You are not the person you were 10 years ago, 10 months ago, or maybe even 10 minutes ago. We are always growing and changing in small ways and large, and our outermost stretch is not the definition of who we are. It is the integration of that stretching into a new sustainable self we are striving for. Tillich's process for the growth of that self is also a fair outline for communities and institutions. We as a congregation have stretched ourselves in several ways. We would do well to remember to also work on integration each step of the way. Social and spiritual change does not happen all at once. It is a building and integrating evolution. So friends, as we work our way through changes as a congregation, as a nation, each in our own ways as individuals, I caution us each to be wary of our reactions and the reactions of others. Resistance, fatigue, fear, discomfort, and anxiety are all par for the course with change. Such experiences are not to be avoided. There are ways to ameliorate these negative experiences, ways to bring the excitement back, ways to stay grounded in the chaos of change. Let us honor what we lose, that we may stay open to what may come. Let us hold close to our guiding vision and values, that we may stay grounded as we move forward. Let us allow time for integrating new learnings, that we may keep our integrity as we and the world around us change, and a new day dawns to a world without end. May it be so. So I was trying to choose a sermon from the Faith Rocket that I thought aligned with the themes of ingathering and what that means. And in some ways, I think change is really important, because for every new ingathering, we begin a new year. It's a change from what we have done in the past. We are moving to something new and different. And our church is having to learn to be adaptable, right? We've had to change on a dime to move to a virtual service, a hybrid service again, but this time with more planning and more knowledge. We're doing better. We're doing well. We are adapting as need be, and I honor all who have been very much involved in this process of adapting the way that we think about doing service. Am I excited about being virtual again? No, I'll be honest, I'm not. As much as I love the work that we're able to do here to reach everybody, I would much rather be sitting here with all of you in the sanctuary with me. And I can feel that fatigue. I'm going to be honest. with you, right? I feel that fatigue of the constant pandemic check-ins and precautions that we make. My goal for me personally is to not sit in that fatigue, to figure out how I can think about what we're doing as a way of honoring our UU values, that we are caring for each other in the interdependence that we have for each other. So I'm going to own my fatigue, but I'm also going to own that I'm excited about what we have ahead for our church. We've got some great people working on some good ideas, whether it's to make this place as accessible as we can or to explore new options, new ideas. So I hope you will embrace the change, be ready to do some work on that, and we will continue to move forward. Our next hymn is Blue Boat Home, number 1064. I know we all know this song, so let's sing it out loud, even if you're virtual. also my favorite song. Okay, so we have a couple of announcements. Number one, I know that the Anades are meeting Thursday for lunch at Sugo's outside. If you have not responded to Sandy Shaner about your attendance at that luncheon, please do. We also, number two, we have a Stay or Go task force that has met. If you have interest in having your voice heard on doing the research for should we stay, should we go, we invite you to attend. We had about 5 people show up at our last meeting, well, 6 people including me, and we worked really hard to come up with some plans and some research that we're doing. We will be sharing with you on a regular basis as we have things to report, and we will continue from there. So look for messages specifically from the task force on a regular basis coming out. Sheila O'Brien and Hedda Kirk are working on collecting items for Afghani refugees who are coming to here in this area. There is some information being shared on UU Friends about what is needed, and I know that with the church board we're going to talk a little bit about maybe doing a collection and sending that donation to the Afghani refugees. So if you have any interest in doing so, please let us know, please reach out, and so we can target donations that can go directly to the organization that is helping Afghanis to relocate here. Our next service next week is going to be led by Paula Moore on Sunday on Labor Day weekend. So she will kick off our season with a wonderful service on self-care, I believe. Don't quote me on that because I don't remember now off the top of my head. Sorry about that. But follow that by Annie Goresh, and then Loretta, our Mother Jones, is coming. And then from there, I know that we have, or I don't remember the order exactly, but I know we have Loretta coming, and we have the Troubadours of Divine Bliss. We'll be doing another virtual service for us again, so I'm very excited about that. Are there any announcements? If you want to type it in to the chat in the YouTube page, anything? Nope. All right. If you have any other announcements, please feel free to share them. Oh, I have one more. I forgot. Jennifer Lewis has decided to join our board, so I'm very excited. So we now have Jennifer also helping us, and we are very grateful and thankful to Nancy McGilson, who is helping us with office work. She will be taking on some of the responsibilities for answering emails, picking up stuff from the mailbox, making deposits for us. We are grateful for her and for her willingness to help and support the church as we can. All right, I think I covered all the important things. Those were the 2 that I forgot to write down. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to invite you to join me in reciting a prayer as I extinguish our chalice. The light of truth and meeting cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. Our benediction today is prayer number 107, Lifting Our Voices, by Maureen Killeran. As we weather winds of change, may we have wisdom to cherish moments of stillness. As we recollect times of challenge and of pain, may we remember also the graceful blessing of our lives. As we look to future unknowns, may we have the boldness to trust that there is unimagined good yet to come. Blessed be. Welcome home. We're back to starting our church year again, and have a great, great week. We will see you at the coffee hour. You can find the link in your newsletter as well as on UU Friends to be able to join us for our coffee hour in a few minutes. Thank you.